Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 10th of March, comes to you from London. And we see a mixture of colours on the screen this morning, so that just tells us that markets are mixed. And so we start by looking at the dollar index. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart, long-term, medium-term, and short-term view of the market with the corresponding point and figure targets. And dollar strength is just waning a little bit on that short-term 60-minute chart, but we are seeing the fact that we've made this higher high, the higher low. This really is a bit of a turnaround in the dollar. So increasingly, it is looking like the dollar has indeed turned a corner, and that was the low point. So dollar strength is very much the theme that we're expecting over the coming weeks and months. We'll see pullbacks in the short term, but we are seeing a trend change going on there. That means that the euro is weaker, and if we look at the euro dollar, we're through the cloud. Here we've got the lower high and then the lower low, and that is the confirmation that the trend is changing. And if we look at the yen, we're sitting at 108.70, really nudging that 109 level. Tends to be a lead indicator for the dollar against the yen, and looking very strong there as well. So just confirming. Sterling sitting at 138.90, still looking pretty good on the trend against the dollar. But of course, that dollar strength is now kicking in a little bit, so it will be interesting to see how that affects the longer term picture. We do still have some pretty big targets. 139 was given and met. 146 is the next target, and then 150 on the longer term chart. But sterling strength is very much a theme that we're seeing. And against the euro, we're sitting at 116.72. No big surprises there. We had a target of 116.86 in place since December, which was given at 111. So that's very much in line with what we've been expecting. We're seeing the move into longer term bullish. So sterling looking strong. Looking at Bitcoin, we're sitting at $54,000, so holding on to its gains there. Short-term bullish again, and the longer-term charts are bullish. Don't be surprised to see these downside targets coming off the chart. We make new highs, we lose those targets. So that's how it works. The S&P 500 index had a good showing yesterday, but we're seeing a lot of volatility creeping into the US market in the last several sessions. And that's showing up on the daily chart, where it's becoming much more bigger candles, basically. The weekly trend is still pretty intact and holding on, but we do have a downside target around 6 and 7% on the S&P. We did move back into bullish territory, so that's looking a little bit better, but the volatility is now a slight concern. You normally see volatility towards the end of a trend. That's not to say the long-term trend is over, but we're seeing some medium and short-term volatility kicking in. The Nasdaq did find support on the cloud, on the lagging line, but we are still bearish on the Nasdaq. We do have downside targets, some 12% lower still. Stocks like Apple making 3-month relative lows. We are seeing some weakness creeping in, and we've been talking about that for some time. The futures for the S&P up slightly for the S&P and down slightly for the Nasdaq. So our call for the day is that US markets will open flat. This is the futures in London this morning, of course. So it'll be interesting to see how they change as we lead up to the open on Wall Street. The VIX volatility has settled right back down as well. So for the moment, markets are not that fearful. The FTSE future is down slightly, but we're seeing signs that the UK market is in recovery mode. Stronger sterling will not help the FTSE 100 with around 2/3 of earnings in non-sterling. So if sterling is stronger, repatriating those currencies is going to have an effect on earnings in the UK. Looking at the DAX in Germany, it's fairly flat this morning on the future, and the cash is up slightly. So we are seeing the DAX holding on to that that new high. So that's really significant that we are holding that, and we've got good upside targets. So German stocks looking pretty good. The French market also up, not yet making new highs, but getting close, and now the long-term chart is bullish. Japan was down, is up slightly. Hang Seng was up 0.5%. Chinese market flat, but is still looking at that pullback. We still have some very good long-term upside targets for Chinese stocks, but medium-term we've got 3 to 5% downside. The Indian market was up 0.5%, still looking very strong on the chart. and that's looking really a standout. And if we look at the Aussie market, it's really rolling over, just struggling to make new highs after the big falls that we saw last year. So that's a mixed picture on the short term. We've got targets in both directions. Taking a look at gold, we have gold recovering on the short term. It's down this morning, but have we found a floor? This is really quite key now. Is this level 1670 a floor? So we need to just watch for a rise off this level. But for the moment, gold is in the doldrums, and as you'd expect, silver similarly. But the medium and long-term picture for silver is better than for gold, and we do have upside targets, some 7% higher, so that's looking good on the short-term chart. Copper continues to power ahead, so we're seeing that chart looking very bullish still. Taking a look at bond yields, and we've talked a lot about bond yields. The rise continues, and we're up further this morning. We did pull back from the 160 level, but the key thing is we've activated this 3.25% bond yield. We've got 1.73 as the target, 167, 163. All these targets to the upside, and targets that were given ages ago in November being met. So no big surprises there. If we look at the 30-year bond yield, similar pictures here. So the targets are less sizable, but we're into the mid 2.4, 2.5% area. So we are just seeing bond yields strengthening as a theme. Quick look at the energy mix. We've got Brent crude holding 67.50. Couldn't quite hold the 70 level. It looks like we might be finding some cloud support. Shortage of targets is my real issue here. So that's really key. Much the same picture for WTI. If we look at emissions, we are sitting up 2% above 41. We put our emissions report out last week, giving a target area of 41, 42. So that's quite key. Gas markets up quite strongly this morning. We're seeing MBP up 4%. And TTF up 2%. So we are seeing some quite big moves there this morning as well. And if we look at German power, we're producing a power report for clients today, breaking to new highs. That's really significant. How high it would go, keep an eye out for that report. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.